noticing Brenda looks a little different today. That's because Stanley's with me. And today we're talking about pausing when agitated. And how we're going to be talking about why agitation um, hijacks our rational thinking and how fast it happens and how it kicks into fight, flight, and things usually get messy. And that could be text messages, that could be social media posts you read and no one even knows you're getting mad. It could be communicating with family members, work, people in the store, wherever it may be, but it's you and I talking to others. So, good morning. Charlie Collins here with the Blindsided podcast. And today I got Stanley.
How you doing, Charlie? I'm glad to be here, and I love the way that it happened this morning. So, it's one of those things that when life throws us a biscuit and we wanted a bagel, we can actually get a little agitated by not having the right thumbnail up or not being totally prepared when we think that we should be, and we can allow that to get us agitated. So I just think you couldn't have made this up. I think it's beautifully orchestrated the way that it turned out this morning. So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And it's a good thing I didn't drop into fight or flight. That's it. Podcast is over. I made a boo-boo. It didn't even faze me. I just said, well, let's just launch it from the camera slide. And no. So you're right. That stuff happens all the time. And I will say, I didn't that space, that between stimulus and response, that space where we can take a breath, where we can recenter ourselves and take a fresh look instead of allowing this to hijack our rational thinking, like, oh, this is ridiculous. Because triggers waves of linking negative, self-defeating thoughts when that happens.
Exactly. And that's the thing of it. When we think that life has to be perfect, that's the lowest standard, actually, because perfection is not even possible. It's not even on the radar. And even if you could become perfect, then you wouldn't be able to relate to anybody else. So I like to stay on the other side of perfection. It's something that I learned a long time ago, because it became that distraction for me when I couldn't make it perfect. It just became that irritation, and I was giving my power away when I was doing that. And you take that assessment later, self-assessment, and you go, why was I trying to make something that was imperfect perfect when it was not possible?
I hear you. It is a very, talk about getting hijacked and fighting to get my thumbnail. Back in the day when I would design a flyer or do anything, just sliding the image and then zooming out, zooming in, looking, printing. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I never had a person say, I was going to do business with your company, but this flyer is a millimeter off. It's just in my head. And when that happens, rational thinking is out the window. And now I'm coming from an activated thought process, which there isn't much thought going into that. It goes down two lanes usually. So Stanley, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down. I'm going to open up something that I'd like you to read and, crank right through it. We don't need to. I just want to help set the stage for today. So here we go.
Gotcha. All right. So when you become agitated or stressed, your autonomic nervous system kicks into high gear, triggering the sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for the fight or flight response. This causes a surge of adrenaline and cortisol, increasing your heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing rate. Your body is preparing to deal with a perceived threat, even if the threat is just an intense conversation.
Isn't that
That's
amazing?
Okay, now this is where intentional deep breathing, not big breath, but deep breathing works its magic. When you take slow, deliberate breaths, especially diaphragmatic or belly breathing, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is like your body's calming force. It counteracts the fight or flight response by slowing your heart rate, lowering blood pressure, and releasing calm neurotransmitters. Even a single deep breath can send a message to your brain saying, I'm safe. I don't need to be in survival mode. This psychological shift allows you to regain control over your emotions, think more clearly, and engage in a discussion from a place rather than a reaction, a place of reason rather than reaction.
Good thing you caught it in time, because I advanced the slide, and then you might have gotten triggered. So, Stanley, isn't that amazing how brilliant how our bodies and our nervous system is? Because if I walk outside and I sense a threat, as in there's a bear going through my garbage, and oh, hello. Now that hasn't happened to me yet, but it has happened to my buddy. But I have walked out and there's been an animal that made a noise in the leaves, and I'm like, ah. First, I froze. So it wasn't fight or flight; it was freeze. And then, but that's what that's for. We need to be able to fight whatever might be attacking us, or however that fight is. We might need to flight, run, get shelter, close the door, and say, yeah, I'm not going back out there tonight. And that's amazing. But that autonomic nervous system will activate just in a conversation, just from somebody, the way they're delivering a message to you that goes against the way you think about it, which doesn't mean the way you think about it is right, doesn't mean that the person that's saying, I don't know what I'm thinking, Wonder Bread is not so bad for you. Okay. I have a different set of ideas on that. And I can either listen, and then when the person's done explaining their position, I can take a breath, and then I can release, because otherwise I already felt it as soon as they started talking, like, okay, let me start building my let me show you how I'm right, you're wrong, and dominant rebuttal to what you just said. And that is, I don't want to drop into that guy. I still do, and I work at this. And I'm going to work at it more and more. Ever since I've been studying this week and preparing, I'm like, oh yeah, I got some work to do in this area.
Yeah, and I think we all do, Charlie. The thing of it is that we come to any environment with a predisposed set of rules and ideologies, how we grew up, the culture that we grew up in. And when we look at something, we think that our way is the only way. Now, they name streets after me, and it's called one way. And I like that. And so every time I see those signs, I go, hey, there's another street named after me. No, I'm just kidding. Sometimes when I'm talking to somebody, I say, I think they named streets after you. And they go, well, what? Where did you see a street named after me? I said, one way. So when we think our way is the only way, and we're in a conversation, we're not really listening. We're not really listening to what the other person is saying. And it's a difficult transition when we go, okay, what is it that they're really saying? When we go into a conversation with listening in mind, what are the things that the person is saying that are important to them, and why do they stand on that? And why am I letting it bother me? Because I want to have my own way.
Yeah, and then you even rewind more. Who put me in this position to be with this person? You know what I mean? We keep taking it back to responsibility. So I what are some signs, Stanley, like when our emotional nature takes over? So I'm feeling threatened, but what's threatened? Angry, maybe. I'm scared, fear. These are all emotions. That maybe I'm wrong and I don't want to be. And this person's going to talk over me and correct me. And so there's all sorts of things that kind of activate this. And it's an in the moment we can do something, but the real beauty is let's go back through our lives. Where is this coming from? Why does it seem with certain people, especially even stores and I mean, all these things, I can be in a store and start to get tense because I want to be somewhere else. I don't like wasting time in these places, but I entered it. I needed to use that store for something. It just happens to be that everybody else didn't get my memo. Hurry up. So then I ask, instead of I usually ask a question. Is it true that this needs to be any different than it is? No. And I realize now, Stanley, when I'm asking that, I'm calming down, I'm breathing differently, and I'm
Mhm.
back present and I actually can enjoy and be kind to the people around me.
Yeah, you asked the question, how does that happen? Well, it's because we have a preset plan. And when it doesn't go according to our plan, we don't understand all the reasons why it's not going according to our plan. Let's say, the person in front of you driving to the store was going 5 miles under the speed limit. Well, you don't know that 5 miles under the speed limit for the next 5 miles could have saved your life. You don't know that until you come upon the accident that is just up the road that had just happened. And then you begin to do this throughout your life, and you evaluate, where did I allow my predetermined outcome to rule my life? You go to the store and the cashier is a little bit slow. We don't know that they didn't have something tragic that happened and their mind is elsewhere. And when we find ourselves in that position, like you said, take a breath. What is it that we're wanting our way of having that we're not getting, that causes a lot of this internal disruption? And
Mm.
it's listening. Yeah.
And and what makes it about us anyway? So I want to then do this breathing that will actually, I mean, amazingly, there's no pill. You don't have to drink water. You don't have to, run somewhere and collect your thoughts or anything. So when you're in a conversation, so do this. I'm going to take a breath and then a second one in through my nose, and then I'm going to let it out and make a noise through my mouth. So, and then you could do it after. So you go, you do that.
Ah.
Just doing that releases and makes you feel good. So if I'm not going to do that when I'm having conversations, so people can be like, dude, what the heck is, so you can actually still uh, let the brain, the nervous system know by breathing and just letting it back out through your nose. You've just notified your nervous system that there's no threat. It's okay. You can have your rational thinking. You can actually listen. You can be present and you can enjoy that conversation, situation, event so much more. And, Stanley, so many people um, are, when you're talking, they're not listening that well. They're collecting how they're going to come back. And sometimes they don't even let you finish. They're like, I already know the end of what you're going to say. And that was me a lot. And then I would just start, let's get to this. Everything has to be done quick. I like quick. And I realized that isn't how other people like to get through things, talk things out. So I realized when somebody finishes a sentence, before I respond, that pause on its own gives the person a really good feeling. Wow, they're letting it sink in. They actually listen to me. And then I can not respond in a way. My voice is more connected. It's amazing.
It is amazing. Charlie, I want to say that some of that defense mechanism stirs up from past traumas. And when I say a trauma, I'm talking about when you were little. When was the time when you were communicating what it is that you wanted to communicate, and somebody overspoke you, and they made you feel less than, smaller than, minimized, and that comes up, and until we actually are able to process that and call it for what it is and go, wait a minute, this isn't the same person that was treating me badly 20, 30, 40 years ago. This is a new person who has no idea about that. And I'm bringing in my own insecurities. So now, the thing that I like to say that I do well is listening. And I listen to what somebody's saying without that predetermined, and I don't do it all the time, 100%. I don't know that anybody does, but it is the ability to catch myself and go, am I listening from a different perspective, their perspective, not my own? And that's where I can keep myself from getting in trouble.
I'm so sorry, Stanley. Now that you're in here, we only have another boo-boo in this. And, I could blame it on Restream, but it's me. Because Brenda's not here, so your slide. Okay, I don't need to explain all that. But anyway, we're good just the way it is. It's working, right?
It's working. I'm not
yeah,
sure what wasn't working.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure what wasn't working. So see, I didn't know.
I know, and that's another amazing thing. Doing a presentation, you left out, I didn't get through everything, and not one person in that audience knows that because they aren't the ones that designed your presentation. And I'm like, oh, so if you didn't get to everything, don't beat yourself up now. And that's another place I would get activated at times. People in a crowd, like somebody might raise their hand. I'm like, this is not Q&A. I'm in charge. Or they would talk. And I'd be like, that's rude. But maybe then I learned maybe I triggered something in them and they were so excited they had to share it with the person next to them,
Right.
It's like, not as I see it. It's just take a couple, let it out, and watch how your rational thinking, more empathy will come in. Then that person that you're talking to, whether even on social media and text messages, which is very hard at times. People say one thing and the person reads it completely different, or they read the words the person wrote, but they form a different meaning of it. And choosing words is critical because communication, if you're good at this, Stanley, you can crush it at job interviews, at in the workplace. People will like you. They'll think good leaders are always like, all right, now how are we going to move through this next problem? Not finger pointing. They're not in that fight and flight mode. And I see it all the time when people get into it. I just, when I would get in it with Molly, I would want to be right, dominate it, get it to the end, put a period on the end. That's it. There's no more discussion. Or even better, just walk away and shut a door. Ha! And I have no idea I'm fighting and flighting because I have no idea my rational thinking is out the window, that my nervous system is now going to fix this because my wife is a saber-toothed tiger. She's a threat. And then none of that's true. It's that I can't control me.
Yeah, and it's the way that we think about ourselves. It's the way that we think about ourselves in a scenario. And it really is the inventory that we've kept in our mind. Why are we trying to protect ourselves? What is the threat? And as you said, um, Gentle Molly is the saber-toothed tiger. And so I'm sure if she's watching this, you're going to have a nice dinner with some flowers tonight. And I'm dropping some hints there.
Yeah, I don't eat flowers for dinner. See, I was listening. Stanley, in our work, we work with people a lot that are triggered, and really, this is what's triggered. And I know by working with people, they have their set ideas and the way things are supposed to work outside of them.
Right.
And when you think outside of you, first of all, you can manage well. I mean, you can rest satisfaction and happiness only if you can manage well outside of you. So all those situations and events and things you're doing go that right way because you know the best way it should go.
Right.
And that causes obviously triggers all day long. It causes the tension. It causes the agitation, which then puts us in that grumpy state. Like, wow, I don't have all day. Why can't you get, I see those people and they get angry with gas pumps too. I love that. And, so when we were working with people that are saying, I mentioned triggers, what is it that is allowing yourself to activate yourself? Because our troubles, we think of our own making. So all of this stems from me not having the space between stimulus and how I respond. Mine for a long time was stimulus, react.
Yeah, and it's the definition that we allow the words to communicate. And what I mean by that is, are we allowing our words to define what it is that we want, or are we allowing what we want to define the words that we use? And so our words can either use us or we can use our words. And there's a real play on that. So we can use the words to get something, to achieve something, or we can allow words to use us. And that's where we start going the should and the would and the could, and we should have done this. These are words that are judgmental, and they are defining us rather than us defining the words. Mm-hmm. So, when we're defining the words, it's the outcome is open. What are the possibilities? When we allow the words to define us, we're judging ourselves based on a previous experience that is so far removed, but not removed from the space between our ears. Mm-hmm. And that's where we can get into trouble. And we want to justify, we want to solidify our reasoning for our actions. And we can justify our actions. Like, I can get ticked off because you didn't have the right thumbnail. I mean, come on, Charlie, really? This is your podcast. Can't you have the right thumbnail? For crying out loud. And if I would have said that, I would have been kidding. But you could have taken that and gone, you know what? You're right. Why didn't I have that? Why didn't I put that together? And you could have judged yourself the entire segment of this podcast. But no, what you did was you chose to share that in the beginning, and you removed the saber-tooth teeth from chewing your hiney. Okay. So I'm glad you're still sitting.
Oh yeah. I'm a wiggler. So yeah. In the 12-step program, they have something that's something. Part of it says resentment is the number one offender. It kills more alcoholics than anything else. Where does resentment? A lot of it comes from fight and flight. A lot of it comes from an activated nervous system where I can't manage well. I don't know, because I don't know how to manage me. I don't know that I'm creating this suffering, this survival instinct in my life. And we go through. And what is the problem? Well, we block off the sunlight of the spirit. So once we're blocked, so the minute that tension, that agitation comes in, you're blocked. And watch out. It's going to not get good. Then you're going to have to go back and say, hey, I approached that the wrong way. I was only thinking of me. I apologize. I should have listened. That your ideas and your needs are just as important as mine. You could see I might have had to say that before. And I don't say it with that like, wow, 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 wow. I don't really care. I do, because I want a constant, never ending improvement. I want to get better, because the betterer I get, this new power, this happiness, this peace and sense of directions, it settles in, and it's just more contentment and happier going through the day. It's not such, it's not so agitating.
Right. Right. And the thing of it is, the agitation grows pretty quickly if we allow it, because we can find that fuel to keep feeding the fire of agitation. And you remember, I don't want to pick on Molly because I know she's a saint. So let me pick on myself. So there were times when I will do something and something didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. And then I start to recall other things that didn't turn out. And I can go back 10 or 15 years ago and go, this is what I did. This is why I'm having the results that I'm having. And so I go into that, even with myself, that fight or flight. And I want to fight myself over a situation that happened 10 years ago. And I'm going, what? No, that was 10 years ago. That happened because I didn't know any better. Why did it happen today? Just because it happened. And then get on with it. And how can I resolve it? Just switch. Once I become aware of it, now I have the power to diffuse that rather than to light the fuse within and blow myself up.
Yeah. Yeah. We have self-will for many good reasons. But we got to know when to, when we're blocked. And what is a block? A block means, what is a block? So Blindsided Productions, I'm a blind spot remover. What is a blind spot? It's a block. What is that form from? From me. I've left my rational thinking. I could be dropping into blaming, complaining. I feel like a victim, like things aren't aligning. And that is, so now I'm not, there is no space between stimulus and a response. It's closed up. I'm not taking those 2 breaths, letting my body, my nervous system, it's okay. This is not a threat. You might need to call someone. You might need to ask for some help. You might need to go do something else and come back to it. But these are all tools I did not know, Stanley. And these things work. They really do. I mean, it can be that simple, but I don't believe, because I've worked with a lot of people, if they're bringing a lot of baggage into healing, you got to release that baggage. So you got to see it, you got to own it, and then you got to leave it where it belongs, in the past. And then you can do this. And I just want to share this. You said it. When we stop fighting for what we want, what we don't want will automatically show up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. It is stop fighting for what we don't want. Is it going to make my life better by trying to convince you of a fact that you think is a fact based on the belief system that you have believed or built? No, it's not. My theory is, if I've got to convince you, then I'm always going to have to convince you. And if somebody had to convince me, they always have to convince me. And it's that struggle of of where did that come from, and what is really the root cause of that? That is it either serving me or not serving me? And that's what I got to come back to every single time. Is it serving me? And is it serving me for the long term or just for this moment, just to be right? And sometimes you just go, that's interesting. Okay, then. And walk away, take a breath in, and let it go.
Yeah, because it's not worth what could happen if you get agitated. Not only could you harm the other person, you harm yourself.
Definitely.
So and then God forbid you don't own it and go back and make amends, or hey, I could have approached that differently. That if you don't, and believe me, most people don't do that. They don't know because they don't even know. They still think it's the other person. I love somebody that says, well, he made me, she made me get angry. Impossible when you're freed from the bondage of self. Impossible.
Right.
But if you don't know these techniques, and you're not like content and on the beam and all that stuff. Absolutely. I thought that way. I am mad because of my teacher at school. Why? Because they humiliated me in front of the class. Why? Because I didn't do my homework. But it's not my fault. It's the teacher's fault. They should have handled it differently. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe I could have done my homework.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way that it is, Charlie. When you're talking about these different things and these different scenarios, it's what is missing inside of me? What is the gap that exists continuing? And what I want to say is that we're all a work in progress.
Yeah.
We've not arrived. It's a progress, and it is learning to explore what are the possibilities, what are the probabilities, and not take a no for the final outcome. Not, when we don't get our way, it is what is it that what way are we wanting to get, and what is missing along the journey. And so we don't sink our own boat. And relationally, I say, is that when we're listening with an objective of the other person, what is it that they're coming from, so that it doesn't allow me to be triggered. And it can, I mean, and here again, it's a work in progress. There are days when I'm like, why is this person driving like it's Sunday when it's Friday at 5 o'clock and everybody's passing us and you're just going slow? What's the deal, dude? And it's not even a dude, it's a gal, for crying out loud. They're the smartest
Of course it
drivers on
is.
the road. So anyway, that's the idea, is that we're all a work in progress, and to give ourselves a little bit of slack and not jump to a conclusion that we don't know all the elements that are involved.
I just see it a lot as playing God. I know what's best for everybody, everything, everywhere, every minute of the day, and that is a hard job. That is a very and then when you release that and you realize, oh no, I just got to manage me well. I got to say the serenity prayer, and and then I don't need to. I release the job to the universe. Let you handle that. That's a lot to do every day. I didn't realize how much, and I'm not even getting paid. I'm actually dying because of that job. And I release that job back to the source that it needed to be released to, which I never had it anyway, but I thought I did. And then all of a sudden, oh, it's much easier just managing. And it was not easy in the beginning. It's a spiritual malady. It's because we have physical, mental, and spiritual. And I think without the spiritual component, and that means connected to the sunlight of the spirit, that means nature, that means God, that means whatever it means to you, your own conception. But you know what I mean when I'm saying when you're connected to that source, You are in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. You are not having to gavel out all day long. You are not thinking it should be any different than it is, because it is.
Yeah. And when we appreciate people are where they're at, doing what they're doing because that's the best that they have, when we learn to appreciate that rather than have that expectation, our own expectation on them, I think there's a lot of results that can come even further from that, and also keep us from being in that sympathetic nervous system where we're fighting all the time. We don't want that, and we can walk away going, why did I even talk to them? Why did I let that bother me? And what it does is it robs us of the limited time, because we can't go back and take it back. It's our most precious asset, time. There's nothing more valuable than time. Nothing.
And I assume you think that's correct.
What's that?
I said, I assume you think that's correct, that that's the most valuable thing.
Yes.
And good for you. No, serious. I mean, it's not good. It's not bad. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's
Right.
what you go with that, and it works for you. My most valuable thing could be my guitar and my dog.
There you go.
You know what I mean? I hear you. You're right. Time, there's not enough of it. And for some reason, we like to bring all that past into the present and try to keep moving that forward with us, because, when we die, we're going to bring it all into the ground. It's so much lighter when you release. So anyway, what do you think? Stanley, you just said that, and I kind of came back saying, yeah, well, that's what you think. And you laughed. You didn't say, well, you got it. This is the last time I'm doing this podcast. This guy's stupid. I just gave of my time the most valuable thing, and he crushed it. No, I don't have that power.
No, you don't.
I don't have that power. And so anyway, this has been great. I think, and I wanted to let the audience know. And sorry, Stanley, I don't know if people were chatting or sending messages in, but hey, come on, we'll get better as time goes on. But Brenda, the co-host on the Blindsided podcast, is sitting in Maui, Hawaii, on a 10-day. I don't think she's going to get mad at me for sharing. Maybe she won't watch this. And a 10-day spiritual retreat in Maui. That's alone. Well, I mean, there's a bunch of people there, but she doesn't know any of them, but she probably does already. Now that is something, just a bit of jealousy. Like, whew. I asked her, Stanley, I said, I think you need a chaperone. She goes, I think I don't. And then I said, I know what you need. You need a cameraman to document the 10 days. She's like, that's okay. I'm all set. I said, darn it, I can't get my way in.
Obviously, she did not know what the title of today's podcast was. And had she would have definitely agreed to both of your suggestions.
I know, but luckily when I get a no or something, I don't fall. I'm not getting a no, just means next.
Yeah. So the only thing that I have access to on the chat is good morning from Kaylee, Cassidy, and Carrie. That's what I have. I don't have the YouTube channel up in front of me if there's other comments. So know that if you made a comment, you're not being ignored, you're being loved, and other people are able to read your comments.
Yeah. We're just trying to activate you. You're probably going to hang up anyway.
I'm just trying to tip somebody off today.
Podcasts have done that, or webinars, and I've left because they triggered me. And of course, I triggered me. But, it's like, oh, yeah, I'll show you. And I left.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you, Stanley, for your help today and being a guest on the podcast. It's always great having you here. And you know what? We'll come up with a really neat topic for next week, and we'll see you then. Thank you all for attending, and stay free. See you later.
All right.